Welcome back to Party Chat Sports. I'm your host, Drew Nelson. Today, we're going to be doing the next episode of the rebuilding the a franchise series that we started this week. Gil did one earlier this week, so I'll be doing the next one here, and we're going to be using the Stick to the Model website. They have a feature on there called Be a GM, and so you saw that. If you watched Gil earlier this week, or if you haven't watched Gil, make sure you go do that. So this is kind of a website similar to not really a mock draft, but drafting is part of it. There's free agency, cap space, dealings, trades, things like that. Earlier this week, Gil did the Chicago Bears. So if you're interested in what Gil had to say, or you're interested about the Chicago Bears, see what he thinks they should do going into the next season, go make sure you check that one out. But today, I will be doing the Arizona Cardinals. And that's going to be an interesting one because they are a team rebuilding. They're not a playoff team. They weren't anywhere close. So they have a lot of work to do, and they have some interesting choices to make, especially this year, maybe next year. We'll see. And so, also being in Arizona, I'm the Arizona local expert. I'm not a local of Arizona, but I live here now. I hear, because I listen to sports radio every day on my way into work, my way home from work. I hear a lot of Cardinals information, news, things like that. So I have at least a decent understanding of at least what some, I don't want to call them insiders, but radio hosts, and one of them I guess you could consider an insider. He's got some good sources. So I at least understand what they are feeling, and how some of the fans are feeling about the team, and what they should do. So without further ado, let's get started. I haven't used this yet, so forgive me if it's not the smoothest first go around. But it looks like here we're starting off with cap management. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what happens. Definitely don't save Arizona as my favorite team. That's for sure. Let's look at some of these. Okay. And right here, we already see some of the options here. And it's going to be interesting because the first one, this is not showing me who's, okay. This is going to be the big one here, right? And so there's not a, can I go forward to trades? That's kind of a bummer. So it looks like I can't go forward. I can't trade Kyler yet because the options for Kyler are trade. Jets are mentioned, Steelers, Vikings have been mentioned. Maybe the Falcons. There's a couple teams out there that could use a quarterback like Kyler, or at least try to see if they can do something with him. And so trade is on the table. And if you're trading for him, he's, I think, making 35-ish million a year for the 2 years left on his contract, is what I think I have heard. So it's not terrible. That's it's a long ways away from top of the line quarterback money, which is good because he's definitely not top of the line. But that's not too bad for what you're getting in return, especially when the other options. Oh, I guess we hit dark mode or something right there. I didn't even touch anything. Okay, we're in dark mode now, I guess. Anyways, especially because the other quarterbacks in the free agency class include Malik Willis. Who else is out there? I forget right now. Aaron Rodgers, I suppose, for certain teams, if you can convince them to come there. Think there's not a lot of great quarterbacks just out there for the taking. So if you want a Kirk Cousins, so if you want a vet that has shown signs. I mean, Kyler is probably the highest upside of any of the available. Technically, he's not available yet, but if you use your brain, he's available. He's probably the highest upside of any of them. Still fairly young. It says he's 28 right here, so still pretty young, a lot younger than a Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers. I have to look how old Malik Willis is, but fairly young, making a decent amount of money. But a guy you can try to make it work for a couple years, and then if not, you just let him go. And if you're the Cardinals, your options are trade him or cut him. There's a third option that keeps getting floated around here with the new coaching staff. Can you make things work? I think you probably could. I think it is possible. I don't think the fans, maybe about half the fans, I'll say, don't want him back. The other half probably wouldn't be too mad about it. But does Kyler want to come back? I don't think so. He was not injured all of last season, right? He got benched for Jacoby Brissett, and that was basically, he was done playing for the Cardinals at that point. Now, would he come back for a new coach? I think it would take a lot of convincing from Mike LaFleur, so we'll see what he can do. But I would consider him gone because the Cardinals can save significant money, and they're, the worst thing he can do, honestly, is win them games, and he's good enough to win, more games than they should for the rebuild. So this could be a mistake. I've never used this before. I'm going to keep Kyler Murray on the roster. I'm not going to cut him. I'm not going to restructure. I'm going to keep him here and hope we can make a trade. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but we're going to try it. I think trade. I've spent way too much time on this. We just got into it, but the thing with trading Kyler Murray is, one, Cardinals don't have a lot of leverage. I don't think a lot of teams know that the relationship is terrible. It's soured, and he's pretty much done here. So you can wait for the Cardinals to cut him. Very likely that happens. But we see this all the time. If you're a team who wants to guarantee that you get him, because if he gets cut, then it's just free agency, right? So you got to compete with whoever else wants to offer him a contract, and there's probably going to be at least a couple. If you want to guarantee that you get him, you can trade for him, and it probably won't cost you very much in the grand scheme of things. So, especially for a starting caliber quarterback. So if you want to guarantee that, I could see a trade being made for him. And again, it's not going to be huge. Couple draft picks, probably late, probably day 3 picks. That's probably all they're getting max. So we'll see, but I'm going to save them for later. Now let's go down the list. Jacoby Brissett can save $5 million by doing what? Don't really need to do that because ideally you move off him next year anyways, after the draft next year. Trey McBride, I don't think he's had his deal long enough yet to have anything. Yeah, well, it's not a ton. Denzel Burke, he's rookie. Let's look. Zabin Collins is interesting because you could extend him. You could cut him, and I think he's not great. He's not what he should have been, and not what he was drafted to be, but he's a decent player. So let's see, what do we got going on here? I don't know if you want to get 4 years. That seems like a bit much. Pretty much does nothing to the cap hit this year. Could you sign him for a 2 or 3 year? See, that's what Zach Bond's making. And Zach Bond is way better. So would he take a pay cut for 3 years? I think you could probably, because he's not that good, right? So would he take a pay cut to get some contract length? Probably. And this lowers our cap hit just barely. But we'll come back to this one. Dalvin Tomlinson, look at that. Let's see what we can do here. We could restructure with a void year. Or what happens if we cut him? Take a 6 million, almost 7 million dead money hit, but net savings of 9 million. That's not bad. 1 year left on his deal, age 31. Sean Murphy Bunting is another one that I talk about getting rid of. That's a pretty easy one. Dead money, 2 million, but you're saving 7 million. I think we're going to cut him, especially with the younger guys that they brought in the corner room. So that'll be our first one. Let's go down a little bit. Offensive line, it's kind of tough with these guys because they desperately need offensive line help. So having depth is not a bad thing. Baron Browning, honestly, you couldn't even extend him. I don't know if you'd want to, but especially not for 4 years. Like, that's pretty long for players like this. Let's look what else we got. Buda Baker. Can we restructure? How would that work? See, a restructure of Buda Baker. You don't even have to throw in the void year. Let's restructure Buda Baker. He's not going anywhere. Let's just move his money around. What else? Paul Nichols. He's 29. Less savings than who did we talk about earlier? Dalvin Tomlinson. So Dalvin, you might be on the chopping block there, buddy. There's a big name here. Here it is, James Conner. You can save $7.9 million by cutting him. He's 30 years old, coming off a gruesome injury. I think this is one of those cuts where the fans will most likely be upset. The locker room will probably be upset. This is, from what I understand, a leader. James Conner's a great person, a great story, a great player. But, great stories don't always win you football games. So I think, especially with a new regime coming in, they don't owe him anything. They don't have any relationship to him. This is where you're going to see some of the hard decisions being made. And I think, there are a couple free agency running backs that you can get or trade for. There's a couple guys in the draft. So they've got Trey Benson, who underperformed, but still hoping you can take that next step. Still a young guy. So I think we're going to cut James Conner. Boom. Let's look who else. Is there anyone with some of these are just like save $1 million, like whatever. Let's look at some of the suggestions. So Bilal Nichols is on there. We talked about that. Saban Collins is on there. We talked about that. We didn't talk about B.J. Ojolari. That one's interesting. And wants us to restructure Josh Sweat and Trey McBride. We can go back and look at that. That's probably a good one. Do you wanna extend Marvin Harrison already? Could you get a steep discount? I don't know that he would take it in real life. Michael Wilson, kind of a breakout year for him. A couple breakout games. You're not going to franchise tag Calais Campbell. Expiring star. That's interesting. I don't know if I'd call him a star, but let's go look at some of these restructures. Let's go to Josh Sweat. Let's restructure him. We won't add a void here. We'll just spread it out. Let's do this one with Trey McBride. Gonna keep Kyler Murray like we already talked. I'm thinking we keep Zaven Collins. He wants us to cut Bilal Nichols. And I'm thinking we do just that. We'll cut Bilal Nichols. Again, they've drafted a lot of young defensive tackles as well. So hopefully, if things work out, they should have some depth there. And where does that put us? Will it tell us where our cap is at the moment? $77 million. So he's added $35 million in cap space. That's probably pretty good. They talked on the radio about getting it to about $100 million, and I think part of that is moving Kyler, cutting Kyler. Let's just see what the cut is. Yeah, that's tough. So we'll look about trading him. I don't know that you could extend Marvin Harrison right now. I don't know that either side really wants to. I do think you could extend Michael Wilson. It's going to increase, but could you get him 3 years, just under 12? Let's see, Rashad Bateman's making 13. Cortland Sutton's making 13. I think you might want to do that because he showed he could be a really good quarterback or wide receiver. I just think the quarterback has been holding him back. And even Marvin Harrison gets some of the blame for holding him back. So honestly, it costs a little bit more cap space, but I wouldn't mind extending him. Now this ad at the bottom is blocking me from doing so. So that's awkward. Let's see if we can get this to scroll down, please. Get out of my face. Oh my gosh. Apparently I need some ad blocker because this is all up in my business. There we go. Again, you could extend like Zaven Collins, Mac Wilson. You can even let him go. But I think we're in a decent spot. Was there one more that I wanted to do? BJ, that's fine. He can stay. Let's go ahead and stay with that. Well, what about this? Who's the center? This guy right here. He's 29. Can we get him to stick around 3 years? Maybe take him down a little bit. Do you think you would take that? You see, the problem is, you have no idea. I'm not a GM. I don't know how much this player would take. But I think, you got to keep some of your guys. You can't just let everyone hit a free agency. So we're gonna give him about $12 million a year. Estimate is 12.7. We'll give him a little bit of a discount. He's giving us a discount. 3. We're giving him an extra year. Originally started with 2. He's only 29, so that's fine. Boom. We'll extend him. And then let's look at the other free agents. Greg Dortch, whatever. Calais Campbell, he's almost 40 years old. Chad Ryland was pretty good as a kicker. Let's see. Oh my goodness, you could get a decent deal for that. Do you want to extend a kicker that long? We'll give him $3 million, 5.5. 3 years, 5.5. Saves us a little bit of money. Why do they have 2 punters? I'm going to keep it real with you. I don't know which one's better. I want to say I've heard of Hack before, but I don't know for sure. There's quite a few free agents on here. I don't know that you desperately need to keep any of these right now. Any ones that are left. Kelvin Beachum, like some of these tackles and defensive line, if you need depth. Jonah Williams. You probably want to keep one of these punters. Again, I have no idea which one's better. No idea. So I'm going to choose Hack, even though he's older. We'll give him 2 years. And we'll call that. Let's move on. We're spending a lot of time here. Okay, the Panthers want Elijah Higgins for 2026 pick 156. That's probably pretty good. The Eagles want him. The Broncos want Michael Wilson for pick number 62. They want to give us Theo Johnson for pick 65. No thanks. Elijah Higgins. Everyone wants Elijah Higgins. Garrett Williams for pick 84 and 158. I don't think so. We also need him to stay as a corner. The Chargers want Michael Wilson for picks 86 and 123. The Panthers want him for 83, 119. Can I trade Kyler? I'm going to have to just do it manually. Let's see what happens. Kyler Murray. And let's go to Jets. Sorry, Gil. You're going to hate this. I think... Do the Jets want it? The Jets should not do this, all right? The Jets should not do this. For the same reasons why the Cardinals shouldn't keep him and play him. He's probably going to win too many games. The problem with the Jets is the coach is a lame duck. He wants to win games, try to save his job. The organization is setting up for a rebuild despite having the lame duck, so you want to keep your picks. Quite the conundrum there. I'm going to go ahead and switch this to, believe it or not, the Minnesota Vikings. Oh my cap space. But that's their issue. That's for Cam to figure out later. What if you send pick 161 I'm not sure what that red bar means. Does that mean the Vikings like it or the Cardinals like it? Let's add in. I'm just going to add another one, see which way it moves. It didn't move anywhere. What if I add a first round pick just for? It didn't move anywhere. Okay, bar could be fake. Could be fake news. Let's offer this. Okay, it's hating on me. Oh, I see the value. It's saying the value is too low on that. I don't know that it is. But Kyler Murray's valued at 70. Let's do 40. And that's about in the middle. Boom. The Minnesota Vikings have traded for Kyler Murray for, I don't know exactly what round those picks were in. It looked to be maybe a third and a fourth or a third and a fifth or something like that. Not doing the math. This Michael Wilson trade is interesting. Screw it. They want to give me a second-round pick for Michael Wilson? I'm taking that. Done. Everyone wants Elijah Higgins, and we have Trey McBride. So who's going to give me the best? The Eagles? Done. We're getting picks. Okay, done with trades. Tender players are retained at the tender salary. Okay. A couple depth guys. I already re-signed him. Not sure why he's there. Unrestricted. We're keeping all these like that. So not tendering any of those guys. Draft. Okay. Full draft. We'll speed it up a little bit. Starting. Boom. How come it didn't let me sign any players here? Here we go. Hold on. Can I sign people that... Yeah, here we go. Bro! George Pickens is not being available. It's just not happening. So we're gonna pretend like we didn't see this. He's not available. Don't want Debo, don't need Goddard. Devin Bush, kind of interesting. Wan'Dale Robinson is kind of interesting. Alec Pierce is interesting. Romeo Dobbs is interesting. Trey Hendrickson. Mike Evans. Khalil Mack. Kyle Pitts. Quay Walker. There's quite a few names here that I don't think will be free agents. Devin Lloyd is an interesting one. Breece Hall. And you got to think some of these guys are going to want to go to good situations. Also, keep in mind that the new regime is familiar with Rams players. So any Rams free agents may be of more interest to the Cardinals. I think Rico Dowdle is kind of interesting. He gives you a decent floor for a running back. I think it would be beneficial for him and Trey Benson to split time. But if Benson proves to not be, a reliable guy, I think Rico Dowdle gives you a good floor. So let's see what the deal is here. Mr. Rico. We'll give him, what if we give him 3 years? That seems high. We'll make him that offer. Accepted. Boom. Okay. We got Rico Dowdle. Keenan Allen, Clowney. I would like to see him back on the Cowboys, probably, but we'll see. Kobe Durant. Okay. Here's one that I think, obviously, different side of the ball, but I think this would, make some sense. And again, I have no idea what these players are going to actually sign for. I'm just kind of making that up. But we're going to offer him that. Boom. Done. David Njoku, wow. Okay. Leonard Floyd, okay. Anzalone. Tyler Linderbaum. That's a pretty good Reed Blankenship, okay. There's quite a few good free agents here. I don't know that it's going to be like this. But if it is, Kobe Bryant, Jake Tonjes, Christian Kirk, Cameron Jordan, whatever. Dante Fowler. Javonte Williams. He wants us to get another tight end, but we don't need a fancy tight end. Sam Williams, whatever. Tolbert, whatever. Tyler Huntley. Tutu Atwell, familiar with, $3 million a year for a year. Familiarity. Yeah, that's an easy one. Evan Neal is a bomb. Travis Etienne, wow. Okay. Rashid Shaheed. Oh. Again, do any of these people want to come to Arizona? Probably not. Though I think you should at least be interested in Rashid Shaheed. I think everyone should be. Rashad White's not a bad one if we didn't get Rico already. Trayvon Diggs, look at that bum. Russell Wilson isn't a bad guy to bring in as vet presence. Tyler Higbee, familiarity, want another tight end. Yeah, that's easy. Done. Boom. So easy. Zach Wilson. Yo, you're gonna have to let me know. How was the relationship there with good old Zach and Mike LaFleur? But I think it makes some sense. Familiarity, again, just on the Jets instead of the Rams. I think that's it. Let's see if there's like one splash guy they could bring back. Low key, they kind of could use some tackle depth. I don't really care about bringing any of these guys back. You're not getting George Pickens. He's not available. He's not. Like Romeo Doubs, Trey Hendrickson. That would be interesting. Let me think. Because you have Josh Sweat, you have BJ Ojolari, you have Walter Nolan, you have Darius Robinson. Their defensive coordinator is an internal hire, so he's not really tied to anyone. Or do we want to bring in a Alec Pierce or Wan'Dale Robinson? Or Romeo Doubs. I'm a Romeo Doubs enjoyer. Let's get him on the Cardinals. Boom. Let's draft some dudes. Bang. How does this work? Start. Bang. Mendoza. Carnell Tate 2 to the Jets, bro. What is this? We are going to be taking. Let's get some trade offers. Trade back just a couple spots. Even better. Yeah, we'll take this one. We'll take this. Boom. Ruben Bain still. They moved up for Tyson. Oh, this worked out beautifully. Give me Ruben Bain. I kind of care the other order, but it doesn't seem like this is like the best. Simulator. So Ruben Bain is good. Can't go wrong with getting elite edge rushers. Give me Keith Abney. Keep the guy in town. Give me Keith Abney here. Lockdown corner. Talked about him briefly in our mock draft. Go check that out if you haven't already. Wow. The problem with going defensive tackle is they've drafted high defensive tackle 2 years in a row, and they keep getting injured. So the need is kind of there, but they've already done it 2 years in a row. Do you do it a third? See, this is in the second round. Can you go Zachariah Branch here? Omar Cooper Jr., but we just made a big signing, and we have Trey McBride already and Marvin Harrison. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe Anthony Hill Jr. or D'Angelo Pons to add in there. Jake Galladay, Golday maybe. Can't go wrong with more safety. Shoot. Give me a safety. Let's go crazy at safety. To pair with Budda Baker. We're back up again. Someone wants to trade me something. I think he wants to give me 62 or give me 70 and 107 for 62. That's a steal. I'm taking anything if I'm stealing. That is stealing. Mike Ramsey already went safety. Elijah Surratt, we already went wide receiver free agency. I think this Jonah Coleman running back is supposed to be pretty good. That could be interesting. I'm not as familiar with him. Malik Muhammad, I'm interested in for the Cowboys. Jacob Rodriguez, I want him for the Cowboys, but I'm going to give him to the Cardinals. Let's see. Still kind of tempted there. Trinidad Chambliss. Though he just sued the state to let him play again. So I don't know if he's actually going to be available. Emmett Johnson's supposed to be pretty decent. Now we're getting pretty far down here. As far as ratings go, LT Overton, I'm not familiar with him as much. I think let's go ahead with this Jonah Coleman running back. I've heard he's supposed to be pretty decent, one of the better running backs in the draft. I'm not as familiar with him, but we'll take him. Could go Emmett Johnson if we didn't go him running back last round. Caden Curry was pretty decent. Bud Clark, I'm very interested in. We already went safety once. Trey Zune, I'm not as familiar with. I've seen his name around here. Probably pretty decent. Michael Taff is pretty good. Garrett Nussmeier, if you're interested. The Penn State running backs. I'm interested why some of these are grayed out and why some of them aren't. Just trying to see, because the rankings are so different than PFF, which we normally do. I'm not really sure where everyone's going to be. So you could have some sleepers down here. Let's get some offensive tackle in there. Not necessarily a starter right away. Doesn't need to be, but never hurts to get a guy in there, work with them, see what they can be. I'm not really familiar with any of these wide receivers. You got to know I do about 1,000 Cowboys drafts a day, so I'm only familiar with players that they need, and that fall in that general area of where they're picking. So, once we get to the combine and all of that kind of stuff close to the draft, we'll have a better understanding of who all these players are and where their value should be. So probably not going to go another running back, but could we go tight end? Could we go interior offensive line? You can never go wrong picking Iowa offensive line. Do we get a Garrett Nussmeier in here? I pick 104. Still pretty early. Do we get a Tyreek Sapp? Do we get... So interesting how these are ranked. Sean Benny. Drew, do we reach on a Drew Aller? When's our next pick? 107. It's hilarious. I like Drew Aller. I think the tools are there. Let's get him to a McVay tree offensive coach, and let's see what happens. Then we can declare him a bust. See, Skylar Gill-Howard, I think, has moved up the draft board much farther than this on PFF. Now, Dane Tucker is also, I think, normally higher than this on PFF at least. So that's kind of where that gets tricky. I like him and I know of him. I want the Cowboys to draft him if they can, depending on how the rest of the draft falls. So I will take him for the Cardinals. I believe he was tearing up either Senior Day or Shrine Bowl, whichever one he was at. So good player here, especially late round, like flyer. You want to see some guys that kind of dominate those because they're going up against, at Western Michigan, it's like, oh, what's the, competition looking like against, the people that they're playing. But get in the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, they're at least playing against other draft ready-ish players, so you can use that and doing good there is obviously important. There's just I'm just so thrown off by the rankings here. Taylon Green could be interesting. I don't know if you really want to draft him this high, but that could be interesting. I think Marlon Klein could be a nice complementary tight end pick, and I think that's what I'm going to do here. Honestly, like Pat Coogan, I think he's pretty good. Jaden Ott is interesting because a lot of Oklahoma players think he should have been better. Dane Key is interesting. Is there anyone just like... I'm just waiting for someone like crazy to be down here on accident. Justin Jefferson. But what if we just throw in like a Rayshon Benny right here? Let's throw him in. The other guys keep getting injured, so they're going to lose their job. Skylar Gill-Howard's still here. Roman Hemby. I'm not really sure which of the running backs from Indiana is better. They were both pretty decent. So here I'll just throw in another running back. Chase Roberts. Do I remember him at all? Do they have any stats? 167 catches in his career for 2,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Does it show how tall he is? No. Won't spend too much more time. Let me just glance. Let me just glance, and one more glance. So I think we'll probably just take him. Let's just take him. I want to say I remember him being pretty decent from the season. I hope that's not the guy that just got arrested. If that's the guy that just got arrested for rape at BYU, ignore that pick. Ignore that pick. Obviously, you would not make that pick. I can't remember what that guy's name is, and he will obviously not be playing. And I think he's still in school, so might not be an issue. A lot of these names very unfamiliar, very different from how PFF normally plays out. So not as familiar with what we got going on here. And Wokobia, I don't know how to pronounce that, is a guy I'm kind of interested in there for the Cowboys sometimes. Stroman, he's usually much higher on PFF. So that's kind of interesting. There's a bunch. TJ Guy, I think, is usually much higher. Keyshawn Elliott, not bad. Chip Trayanum, that's a guy I'm interested in. They've got some crazy ranking. Miles Rouser is a guy I'm interested in who's not getting as much hype. So I think he deserves. Zavada would be an interesting pick if it didn't suck last season. There's some interesting people. Now we're getting into some interesting folks down here who probably should be higher. Sorry, fellas, I'm just scrolling through here. Very thrilling, I know. Looking at all these random names. But I don't think that's right. I promise there's a couple people down here that are they're way down here compared to where they would normally be in a PFF mock. I think we might have hit the end of the line there. Jake Retzlaff's down here, though. Can you even draft two quarterbacks? That would be, I don't know if anyone double dips like that. Well, let's get a couple more looks and we'll go back. One more. Okay, let's go back. Since I'm not familiar, I'm just going to pick people towards the top. Let's go ahead and get some interior offensive line. Is that our last one, hopefully? Okay, I probably spent a little too much time on the 7th round of the draft and the draft in general, but here's our deal. Probably should have done some more free agency. But again, free agency is tough when you suck and you're the Cardinals. So let's go. Let's see here. Improve the cap by cutting 3 players, restructuring 3 contracts, extending 4 players. Biggest move, releasing James Conner. Traded Kyler Murray to the Vikings in exchange for 2026 pick numbers 97 and 161. Traded Michael Wilson to Denver in exchange for pick number 62. And again, the picks that we made in the first round, probably first couple rounds, probably pretty accurate. After that, it gets messy. as far as where players are ranked and understanding what are some of those lower ranked players, what their actual value is. We won't really know until the combine and things like that. So we got an A grade. That seems pretty good. I don't know how some of the other guys have done or will do. Let's look at the. So we got Brissett starting with Zach Wilson back there, and also Drew Aller, which is nice. Running back, I don't know why it's set up like this. Corey Kiner, whoever the heck that is not starting. But anyways, wide receiver Romeo Dobbs is down there for some reason, so they're really probably in Tutu Atwell. Probably maybe could use another one there. If the draft falls a certain way, Chase Roberts, the rookie. Tight end. Okay. I think there's possibility for Cardinals to go offensive tackle in the first round or maybe the second round, depending on how it falls, to get a solid starter. They had a lot of injuries on the offensive line, but they really need a solid starting offensive line, which they don't have. Future dead money of $40 million. That's probably fine. Whatever. And then I guess that's that's what you have it. Start off with the headliners being trading Kyler to the Vikings. Again, you might see him traded, you might see him released, depending on what other teams think of him and if they want to compete for trying to sign him or not. If they want to just guarantee that they get him, they can do that. The Cardinals will have to eat some dead money. I think they get some better relief if they trade. I'm not exactly sure how all that works. I'm not a cap expert by any means, other than the cap is fake. You just push it all into the future and worry about it later. But that's going to do it for us. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're a Cardinals fan. Unlikely, but let me know what you think the Cardinals should do. If you're a Vikings fan, I'm sorry. I also don't really care what you think. Take it up with Cameron. But he's a big homer, and not sure he'll give accurate insight or unbiased insight into this move for them. But we're going to be doing a couple more of these. Well, not a couple more. We'll see how many we can get through in the offseason. So take a look. I think Dylan might be getting one out this weekend, early next week. So be sure to stay on the lookout for that. We'll probably have some more mock drafts and things as we get close to the combine, and after the combine, going into the NFL draft. So be sure to stay tuned to the channel. We're everywhere, all at Party Chat Sports, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. Be sure to go check us out. Check out Gil's video last week. And let us know if there's anything else you're interested, want to see, or if you just think I'm dumb. You can go ahead and let me know that, and I will tell you that you're dumb and I'm a genius. But anyways, till next time, peace.